too much time, but the point is this, that I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things. And it also means encouraging life-saving capacity to help the Palestinians.
This is my video update from Vienna, Austria on this Wednesday afternoon, October the 18th. Let's talk about some news. And this is going to be a very difficult video given the news topics that we have to discuss. Of course, the big story was the bombing of the hospital in Gaza, and the last I read, close to 1,000 people have died. I believe the last number that I read about was something like eight or 900 people had died from this bombing, from this missile strike into Gaza, which destroyed a hospital. I don't think I need to get into the details of what happened. I'm sure everybody has read the story and they know what happened to this hospital. So let me jump in to some of the comments and some of the news articles that are reporting on this massacre, this war crime. It is a war crime, what happened at this hospital. And the first comment that I want to get to is that of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is in Beijing at the moment attending the Belt and Road Forum. And Putin described the powerful explosion that rocked Al-Ali Arab Hospital, killing at least 500 people, according to local authorities, as a tragedy and a terrible incident. I'm reading this from RT, by the way. Quote, hundreds of dead and wounded. Of course, this is a catastrophe, especially in a humanitarian place. I expect this to be a signal that this conflict should end as soon as possible in any case. It should lead to the start of some kind of contacts and negotiation. Putin also said that he'd discussed the Middle East crisis with leaders of Egypt, Palestine, Iran, Syria, and Israel, describing the conversations as important and timely. I had the impression that nobody wants this conflict to go on and escalate, the president noted, although he declined to give specific details of the talks. So that's the comment from Putin. Notice that he is not blaming either side for this catastrophe at the hospital in Gaza. A diplomatic approach from the Russian president. Biden did not take that approach. He is in Israel at the moment, meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and this is what Biden said, and I quote, based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. He assured the Israeli leader on Wednesday on a visit to Israel. Biden said he was deeply saddened and outraged by the incident, which has claimed over 500 lives, according to Palestinian officials. So I have some big problems with this statement from Biden. A very inappropriate statement. Because I don't like the wording. Okay, he's obviously saying that this wasn't done by Israel. I think that was to be expected from the U.S. president. But this was done by the other team. Really, Joe Biden? Is that how you phrase this? It was done by the other team, like it's a game or a competition, an athletic event. Just an absolutely terrible choice of words, a very, very poor choice of words from Biden, but that's also no surprise there as well. I expect Biden to say something insensitive and very stupid when tragedies like this happen. Anyway, the before we get to some more comments from some other leaders, CNBC, the title of their post says Israel Hamas war live updates. Israel denies targeting Gaza hospital. Palestinian leader Abbas cancels meeting with Biden. Reuters, their title reads Hundreds dead in Gaza hospital bombing, local authorities say. The AP, their article title is After Blast Kills Hundreds at Gaza Hospital, Hamas and Israel trade blame as rage spreads in the region. And the New York Times, well, the New York Times, they had to change the title of their post that was covering this war crime. In the New York Times, their first post title reads, Israeli strike kills hundreds in hospital, Palestinians say. Then they changed the title to At least 500 dead in strike on Gaza hospital, Palestinians say. And then the title was changed to At least 500 dead in blast at Gaza hospital, Palestinians say. So that's the evolution, the progression of the New York Times' article as they covered this strike on the hospital in Gaza, and the Israeli Defense Forces. Well, they had quite a hard time coming up with the posts, with the tweets, the X posts, and the narrative for what happened in Gaza yesterday. At first, the Israeli Defense Forces, the Netanyahu government, they ran an X post with the title "Breaking IDF spokesperson from the analysis of the operational systems of the IDF. An enemy rocket barrage was carried out towards Israel, which passed through the vicinity of the hospital when it was hit." And then the post went on to say that this was, according to their analysis, this was a rocket fired by Hamas. And they included a video, and that video was posted on Twitter X. And then the crowdsourcing, the Twitter fact checkers, I guess you could say, they looked at the video and they said, wait a minute, this video that you're posting is from 2022, and the Israeli Defense Forces, the Netanyahu government, then removed the video, and they just ran with the text post that I read. And this morning, we had another post, which allegedly is a conversation between Hamas, where they talk about this missile strike on this hospital. IDF releases a recording of an intercepted phone call to Hamas operatives who discuss the failed Islamic Jihad rocket that landed on the Gaza hospital. And this recording, this audio recording, was immediately mocked, I guess is the word that you can use, ridiculed, mocked. It was very unbelievable, not very believable, according to many of the comments on Twitter, the majority of the comments on Twitter, this audio recording was considered to be a complete sham. Many people said that this is straight out of the Ukraine propaganda playbook. And then we go to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and his tweet. An analysis of IDF operational systems indicates that a barrage of rockets was fired by terrorists in Gaza, passing in close proximity to the Al-Ali hospital in Gaza at the time it was hit. Intelligence from multiple sources we have in our hands indicates the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch, which hit the hospital in Gaza. So that's the tweet from Netanyahu. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, he disagrees with Netanyahu's assessment, and he posted on his official Twitter account, and this is a translation, but this is what Erdogan said. Hitting a hospital containing women, children, and innocent civilians is the latest example of Israel's attacks devoid of the most basic human values. I invite all humanity to take action to stop this unprecedented brutality in Gaza. Saudi Arabia, they released quite an incredible statement, quite a damning statement towards Israel. They pulled no punches in their condemnation of this missile attack, and this statement from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they blame Israel for this catastrophe, for this tragedy. The letter is on Twitter. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Find it on Twitter, and you can read what the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia says. They condemn this attack, and like I said, they pulled no punches in their condemnation. And you can find the letter in English, posted on Twitter and Telegram. The EU, well, the leaders of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel, they said, and we'll start with Ursula, they said that the strikes, Israel strikes on civilian targets in Gaza are contrary to international law, EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen said. And the official Twitter account of the Council President, Charles Michel, he posted, appalled by this tragic attack on Al-Ali Hospital in Gaza. There's no considerable reason to strike a facility with innocent civilians and medical staff. Targeting of civilian infrastructure is not in line with international law. It's imperative that all the facts surrounding this incident are thoroughly investigated and those responsible are held accountable. We also urge for immediate access to humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip to provide assistance. I kind of agree with this statement from Charles Michel in that it is imperative that hostilities end, that there is a ceasefire, and an international investigation takes place. I completely agree with this statement. It's not going to happen, but that's what I believe needs to take place. I remember the missile strike a few months ago in the market in the Ukrainian-controlled part of Donetsk, Konstantinovka, where 18 people were killed by this missile strike. And right away, the Zelensky regime, Blinken, who had just recently arrived in Kiev, the entire collective West mainstream media, within a matter of minutes, a matter of seconds, they blamed this on Russia, and they ran headlines, posts with titles like Putin strikes at a market, killing civilians and stuff like that. You know, Putin did it. Putin's responsible. Russia launched missiles. Russia hit a market. And at the time, we had some very good video and images from this missile strike. And a lot of analysts on social media, a lot of expert analysts were able to study the images and the video. And within a matter of a few hours, they came to the conclusion that this missile strike must have been launched from Ukrainian territory. This must have been a missile strike from the Zelensky regime. And 3 weeks later, the New York Times, Reuters, they did their own independent analysis. This was when Zelensky traveled to Washington and they ran articles the moment Zelensky arrived in the United States. They ran articles where they said that they had conducted their own independent investigation, and sure enough, those missiles were launched by the Ukraine military. Now, I remember that strike, and I said at the time that everything everything that I'm reading points to Ukraine. All the analysis that I'm looking at points to the fact that Ukraine launched those missiles into Konstantinovka. But I said in that video, we need to stop and have an investigation. Um, we need to give it 24 hours, 48 hours, a week before we, right away before the collective West rushes out and says Russia did it. An investigation, see what happened, and then, you know, play it out from there. But that's not what happened. And it took an investigation 3-4 weeks later to uh, to find out that the missiles were indeed launched from the Ukraine side of things. Even though independent analysts they figured it out within a matter of hours that this must have been launched from the Ukraine side of things. So what I want to say is that for the first time in my life, I find myself agreeing in a way with Charles Michel in that the right thing to do would be to stop the bombing of Gaza right away. By the way, this is the second time that this hospital was hit. This hospital was actually hit with a missile on Saturday, though that missile did not do um, extensive damage to that hospital. But what needs to happen is that the missile strikes have to stop right away, and an investigation has to be conducted, and then we can get to the bottom of what happened. Hopefully, we can find out what happened. Though I believe in 2, 3, 4 weeks, we'll probably know the truth. I imagine some official statements will be released, and we'll get to the truth of this horrific event. Maria Zakharova, she put out a statement on behalf of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I follow the news from the Middle East with horror, and I remember the thesis that former US President Barack Obama stated more than once, that thanks to American policy, the world has become much safer. Now we see how safe it is. That is the statement from Maria Zakharova. Once again, the Russians are very careful because they're working now they're working the diplomacy angle to get to a ceasefire, and they're very careful not to take sides, because no matter how horrific this is, notice what Putin said. Putin said this is a signal to everybody that we need to stop this war. The Russians are working towards getting some sort of mediation, some sort of peace plan in place. So they're very careful to not take sides in this horrific catastrophe. That'll probably piss off quite a few people. But always keep in mind that Russia is thinking in in the long game. They're thinking, how can we get to peace? How can we stop this conflict? So that's how they're playing this. While people like Biden right away they condemn Hamas. They say it was the other team that did it. So anyway, I just thought I would say that because I'm sure a lot of people are probably saying, Russia should condemn Israel and they should condemn Netanyahu, but Russia is trying to get to a peace agreement. They desperately want a ceasefire, as does China. So that's their approach. And you can see it in the statements from Putin and from Zakharova. So there was going to be a meeting yesterday between Biden and various Arab states. It was going to take place in Jordan, and Mahmoud Abbas was also going to attend from the Palestinian side, and that meeting was canceled. It was scrapped. And we also have today, we should have an urgent UN Security Council meeting, which has been called by Russia and the UAE. So that should take place today. And of course, It's about the hospital strike in Gaza. So that's what I got for everybody with regards to this horrific event. Der Spiegel, they have an article where they say that the Israel ground invasion is going to begin after Biden leaves Israel. That's what Der Spiegel is running with. And we have other reports coming from the Israeli Defense Forces, which claim that the next stage of this war is not going to be, or may not be, a ground offensive. It could be something else, something totally different or unexpected. Seymour Hersh, he has his sources where they claim that what Israel is planning to do, because a ground invasion, a ground operation would be very difficult and very risky. And Seymour Hersh's sources, and Alexander also talked about this as well in his video yesterday, they feel like the Israeli military is just not trained for this type of operation. They're reporting that the strategy is going to be something like just artillery and airstrikes, and just continuously bombing the north of Gaza until it's completely devoid of anything, and then the Israeli forces can just move in, and they can go into the underground tunnels and stuff like that. That's what they're reporting is going to most likely be the next phase in this war. Jim Jordan, he's trying to become House Speaker. He didn't get the votes needed in the first round, but he put out an interesting tweet, which I think we should discuss. He said, "We must stop attacking each other and come together. There's too much at stake. Let's get back to working on the crisis at the southern border, inflation, and helping Israel." Notice that Jim Jordan did not say Ukraine in that tweet, and his concerns are the southern border, inflation, and helping Israel. Ukraine is left out of that statement from Jim Jordan, who is trying to become the House Speaker. He was 20 votes short. And I say this because the Biden White House, according to various sources from the Collective West Media, the Biden White House, they are seeking $100 billion in Israel and Ukraine aid. And this is mainly coming from Bloomberg. The White House reportedly believes a spending bundle will more easily secure congressional approval. And in this spending bundle, it's not only Israel and Ukraine in the $100 billion. The Biden White House is putting the border as well into this request for $100 billion. And the sources from Bloomberg, they say that this $100 billion will last until October 2024. So that is what the Biden White House is looking to get for Israel, Ukraine, and the southern border, all wrapped up into one package. All right, so let's go to the next big story. And should we go for a walk? Should we walk down that way into the city center of Vienna? Let's do it. How am I doing on time? This will probably be a short video, maybe, because I'm a little tired. But let's go to the next big story, which is the ATACMS. ATACMS may have been used for the first time by the Zelensky regime, and they hit airfields around Berdansk area. And Zelensky actually, he put out a statement on his TikTok and Instagram account, his nightly TikTok and Instagram statement, and he was gloating about the fact that the Ukraine military has received ATACMS and they used them successfully. That is what Zelensky said. Now the reports are that these ATACMS have a range of 160, I want to say kilometers, but the ATACMS can actually travel up to 300 kilometers. Maybe it's miles. I don't know. My mind's a little bit hazy right now. But either way, that's quite a long distance. If it's 300 kilometers, they can hit deep into Russia, and of course, the ATACMS can be launched from the ground. That's the platform that ATACMS can actually. Let's go like this. That ATACMS can be launched from. And the interesting part about the delivery of the ATACMS to the Zelensky regime is that the Biden White House, they came out with many statements over the past couple of months, and they said that they will in no way send ATACMS to the Zelensky regime, to Ukraine. And sure enough, the sneaky, dishonest Biden White House, they sent the ATACMS to Ukraine. Now, you're going to say, well, they do this all the time. They send the weapons to Ukraine, and they'll make you believe that the weapons, are not that they haven't sent the weapons yet, but they've already arrived in Ukraine, and that's the difference. What am I trying to say here? Here's what I'm trying to say. Maybe I didn't explain this well. The difference with these ATACMS, this delivery of weapons to Ukraine, is this. In the past, the Biden White House, what they usually say is, we're going to deliver, let's say, HIMARS. We're going to deliver HIMARS in a month. And the HIMARS, when they make that statement, the HIMARS have already been delivered to Ukraine. So they're already there. They're already about to be used. But the Biden White House will say, Ukraine's going to get them in a month. But they've already been delivered. Okay, so they just lie about the time delivery, right? In this instance, with the ATACMS, the Zelensky regime, the Biden White House, they said that they're not going to deliver ATACMS at all to the Zelensky regime, but they delivered them. That's the difference. Usually what the Biden White House would do is say, we're going to deliver ATACMS to the Zelensky regime, and they're going to arrive in December. But everyone knows they've already arrived. And that's kind of the surprise. In this instance, the Biden White House, they changed up their approach, and they said they will in no way deliver ATACMS to the Zelensky regime because they fear escalation. They fear that the Zelensky regime is going to use them to hit Russia proper. And remember all the talk about, getting Zelensky to sign a document and a statement where he promises that he's not going to use the ATACMS to hit the Russian Federation and stuff like that. Remember all that talk? Yeah, the Biden White House was just being dishonest and sneaky. They think they're clever. Guess I can walk up that way. So the Biden White House, they think they're being clever, and so that's what they did. That is what they did with this instance of the next wonder weapon. We're not going to deliver it. We're not going to deliver it, and we would have Zelensky sign a document which would say he's not going to hit the Russian Federation. But you know what? We've decided to not deliver ATACMS, and that's what they were saying for the last 3 months, and the ATACMS were in Ukraine. I don't know where I'm going, by the way, just to let everybody know. No. Lost in Vienna. So look, the Russians, they'll figure this out. They'll adapt, they'll adjust. Putin he came out with a statement, and Putin said, all this is going to do is prolong the agony of Ukraine. That's what Putin said. He said, we're going to figure it out, we're going to adjust. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So that was Putin's statement. So look, the ATACMS are going to do damage in the beginning. But just like with the Storm Shadows and the HIMARS and every other wonder weapon, the Russians will deal with it, and they're going to continue to do what they've been doing, which is grinding down the Ukraine NATO proxy. And of course, the Russians are going to figure out the secrets of the ATACMS, and they're going to share it with everybody. They're going to share it with China and Iran and North Korea and everybody. India. That's exactly what's going to happen. So yeah, that's the story with the ATACMS. The Wall Street Journal says Ukraine fires ATACMS missiles at Russian forces for the first time. The New York Times says Ukraine said to use powerful new missiles for the first time. And isn't it interesting that that the timing of this just happens to be when Putin is in China for the One Belt, One Road summit? They always time their attacks, NATO, the NATO proxy, they always time their attacks when Putin is traveling or Russia is hosting some big event, always. And this is very well timed to coincide with Biden's 100 billion aid package for Ukraine that I just talked about. Ukraine being one of the causes that Biden wants to fund. The attack happens just at the time where Biden makes the pitch for 100 billion for Israel, Ukraine, and the southern border. And you're telling me this is not all coordinated? Of course it's coordinated. Whenever the Zelensky regime needs money, the Biden White House, they hit at Russia. They create something to hit at Russia so that they can then go to Congress and make the pitch that, take a look at what Zelensky did with the ATACMS. You see, we can win this thing, so let's give them 50 billion or 20 billion or 30 billion. It's always timed to coincide either when Putin is on a trip or has a big event that he's hosting, and or when the Biden White House has some money that he needs to funnel to the Zelensky regime, and they need to convince Congress that Zelensky can win this thing. Always. The timing is always very important. And let's do one more story. And I'm not in the mood for a clown world, to be quite honest, but I will give you guys a clown world. Even in the darkest of days, we'll try to lighten things up, but I'm not really feeling it today. Anyway, the One Belt, One Road Summit. I think there was an interesting meeting that took place in Beijing, and that's the meeting between Orban and Putin. The first leader that Putin met in Beijing was Orban. And the interesting part about this summit, Orban's attendance at the summit, is that Orban could have gone to an EU crisis summit that was being held on the very same day. And instead, Orban gave the voting to Austria. He says, Austria, you can be my proxy at this crisis summit. I'm heading to China. And he went to China, and he had a meeting with Putin. And look, both leaders said that they disagree on many things, but they said that dialogue is important, and they do have mutual interests as well. That's diplomacy. Diplomacy in action. Orban and Putin meeting, even though they're on the opposite sides, in a way, in this proxy war, right? Orban is with the EU and proxy Ukraine. Russia is Russia. They can still sit down and talk. And they can also find mutual interests to talk about. And Orban, he said that he asked Putin about the war and how he sees things, the conflict in Ukraine. And Orban said that the response he got from Putin was that the conflict in Ukraine is not heading towards a ceasefire. That's not how it's going to be resolved. That's what Orban said in a statement. Actually, let me find it here. Here's a Twitter post from Viktor Orban. Meeting with President Putin in Beijing. Everyone in Europe is asking the same thing. Can there be a ceasefire in Ukraine? It's crucial for Europe, including Hungary, that the flood of refugees, sanctions, and fighting should end. And Orban said that the response he got from Putin was that there's not going to be a ceasefire anytime soon. Orban said, unfortunately, that's the response that he got. So a very important meeting from Orban and Putin. And interesting that Orban was the first person that Putin met. And also interesting that Orban is the only European leader, EU leader, to travel to Beijing for this very important summit. That also tells you a lot. The only adult in the EU, that is Viktor Orban. Anyway, let's do a clown world, and we'll wrap this video up. And there are reports. Let the children. So there are reports that, not reports, there's a story that Ukraine's former minister for lost territories said that Zelensky is an idiot. Zelensky is an idiot. That is what the minister for lost territories said. And let me find the translated quote here. I'm taking this from Slaviangrad, by the way. Let's see. He is worthless. The Ukraine former minister for lost territories calls Zelensky an idiot. Zelensky can only read customized texts written by his speechwriters. Former Ukrainian deputy minister for lost territories Hirohi Tuka has said he was advised to open online conversations with journalists for a reason, because the difference between Zelensky, who reads written texts, and a live underdog Zelensky is so striking, said the former official. According to him, Zelensky curtailed arms production in Ukraine, and now he is, and I quote, tearing his embroidered shirt. That is according to the translation from this statement from a former Ukraine official on Zelensky. He's a puppet. In other words, he's a puppet who reads a script. I can believe that. I can believe that. I'm pretty sure that is the case. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. Coming to you from Vienna, Austria, theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter, X. And go to the Duran shop, 20% off. Use the code TheDuran20. And speaking of Zelensky, I've got my special edition Zelensky green jacket. And where did I end up? Where did I end up? And that's it for the news. If you want to stick with me for a minute, we'll find out where I am, and we'll sign off. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see what this building is. Okay. All right. Take care.